Okay, I think I got it. Let's get to it. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. So today I wanted to just talk about a few films and some books that I plan on reading. Some that I'm like almost finished reading, and yeah, like just like the impact of like what I receive back from the films, and then also tie in some other things in pop culture is that happened and is like speaking to me, and it's like the universe is speaking and giving all of us a message, but specifically me, I was like, this is not a coincidence. Anyway, so first and foremost, I want to talk about one of the first films that I saw in April, which was The Woman in the Yard. Now, The Woman in the Yard was labeled, I believe, as a horror film, like a psychological thriller slash horror film. It stars Danielle Deadwyler, and a few other castmates. Russell Horsby, I think that's how you say his name, which I loved him in Lincoln Heights. The son was Peyton Jackson, and then the daughter was Estella Kahaya, and I think that's how you say her last name. And that's so crazy because my great grandmother name was Estella, so that was interesting. But so when I originally saw the trailer for The Woman in the Yard, I said, I need to see this. It started off as, I want to say, a dolly going fast through the yard of a home, and a little girl saying like what seems to be like a nursery rhyme or some type of folklore story about this woman. And it wasn't a lot of information other than like, this woman is coming, the lady went to go try to see like what's going on with her, and then stuff is happening in the house. That was it. Like that was, they were running from this woman in the yard. So I'm like, oh, this feels like something like folklore-y, or like it felt like, I love the mysticism of like, maybe this is like a folklore or some type of like entity that we're dealing with that has a story behind it, like a theme behind it. And then we got the second trailer, and that also became the case where we start to see rules of the world inside the trailer. Like the mom that plays Danielle, that Danielle Deadwyler plays, her name is Ramona. She's like, oh, you know, close the blinds, she needs the light. So already I'm coming up knowing like, okay, there's a world here. This lady in the yard, like we're gonna figure out more about this lady and like why she here and XYZ. When I watch, now this is what I'm gonna say, full disclaimer, I believe that they should have put a warning notice in the beginning of this film, because this film tackles a lot of topics that are very heavy. And I feel like when I went to go see Blink Twice, instantly when I saw that warning notice of like, you know, this film discloses sexual assault, boom, 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 if you feel triggered, I feel like this film should have done that, because I was not expecting what I saw. Warning, this film does tackle grief, deep depression, suicidal thoughts, and possibly the idea of like actually committing the act. And I was not expecting, one thing I will say about the trailer, I was not expecting that. And when I saw the movie, it got a little rough. And I'm not someone who suffers from deep depression or grief. I haven't had that situation in my life, knock on wood. I hope I don't. or thoughts, but I felt uneasy in the theater. It's similar to when I felt in Blink Twice. I felt nervous when I saw it, but I was prepared because they gave the warning notice. This, I felt like a tightness in my chest. I felt nervous, or anxious, or a little bit of anxiety because of like the things that I saw. And I was like, oh my God, I think they should have did a warning notice before that. But anyway, just to go through the premise of the film, Ramona is suffering from a deep depression. She recently lost her husband in a drastic car accident. She also was in the car when that happened, and she got banged up, but unfortunately her husband passed away. She's suffering from grief. She has 2 kids, Annie and Teller, and she is so embodied in the grief that she can barely get out of bed. And she also tends to like drown herself in an old video that her husband that she took of her husband before he passed away. And he started talking about the house and a dream that he had, about how he dreamed that the house was finished. They moved into a farmhouse. It was a fixer-upper, and he had a dream that the farmhouse was finished, and the only thing that wasn't finished was they did not have a name for the house. And they're laughing and they're playing and things like that. So you see this, but then we quickly get put back into reality where Ramona is not really being present as a mother. The house is still a mess. There's no groceries. Her son is like, I want to say 10 or 11, probably 13. He's like a teenager. He's either in junior high or the beginning stage of high school. And he's like, there's no food. The electricity was turned off, probably because she hadn't paid the bill. She's going through a slump, and you can see like this is very rough for her. And we quickly get introduced to the woman in the yard. Now, this is where I would say it gets right into it, but I will say there was some confusion about this film in a sense of like, I did not know, as I'm watching the movie, I was like, well, is the woman in the yard, and as we're learning and seeing more about the woman in the yard, I was conflicted. I was like, well, is the woman in the yard some type of folklore entity that Ramona prayed for? Because she said, you prayed for me to come, and I'm here, and today is the day. And then as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh, wait, this feels like this could be the woman in the yard as a symbolism of the physical manifestation of grief, depression, and this S word, coming in physical form, that it overshadowed you to the point where it is coming full force to you, almost like your shadow side is coming in the physical manifestation. Like she suppressed her shadow side so much that it's coming physically, in a supernatural surrealism way. And I just was like, but this made it seem like it was folklore, so I wasn't sure if this had something to do with an actual storyline or if this was her shadow self. And when we see more of the film, we start to see that she does go through a reverse world where she's able to see her husband again, and it's like a supernatural element, which I did enjoy, but it became confusing because they started to play with time. And I was like, well, is Ramona doing this, or is this the woman in the yard? And there was even one scene where it was the same scene seen through a different point of view. So one scene was saw by the daughter Annie, and we saw the woman in the yard. And then fast forward, we go through a shift, and then we rewind back to that same scene where the son Teller is watching that very moment where Annie is looking at the woman in the yard, but Teller is not seeing the woman in the yard. He's seeing his mother. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Which made me think like Ramona is the woman in the yard. Which I was just like, did she kill the chickens? Like, it was just like, I was kind of confused. Also, but I will say this film was emotionally, it was like emotional. Like people, like I cried at the end. And people were in the movie theater sniffling because I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, oh my God, like we are really watching this. Like I didn't think this movie was going to go there. And it was another scene that like caught me off guard too, where I was like, what the hell? And I know I'm not going to say what the scenes are, but I just was not expecting this. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting like some folklore. Oh, this lady is coming, and I wasn't expecting it to be this deep. Like it was very tackling like self-identity and how sometimes when you're not liberated in some sense, or you smother, you know, your self-fulfillment and drown in that, and you become unhappy, that can really weigh on you. And it was just like, I will say the film, I appreciate the film. I think people should see the film. I'm actually going to purchase it when it comes out. One thing I will say, and I'm gonna try to wrap this up, there was one scene that happened and I instantly knew that a white man wrote this film. And the scene was when the son, Teller, called his mom a bitch. And I was just like, I knew instantly. It reminded me of also this film that played on Netflix where it was with Anthony Mackie and the little boy from, have you ever seen Proud Mary? He played the son, and it was like a ghost in the attic or whatever in their house, and they started to like capitalize on the ghosts and all this other stuff. Well, the scene in that film where the son, he like low-key like kind of cussed out Anthony Mackie, and I was like, I don't believe, instantly when I saw that, I was like, a white man wrote this. And I looked it up, and sure enough, a white man did write this. And I was just like, culturally, it was culture, and that was so confusing because the chair that the woman in the yard was sitting in, it was very, it seemed like it had some type of culture or story. That's why I was like, they're missing the folklore element of this. I don't know what, like, even like the woman in the yard, the actual actress, she is so striking. And I was just like, there's something here that y'all could have like tackled into, but it was no death. It was just, these were some black people dealing with depression. And I was just like, I don't know, like it was just something missing where I was like, this is off. I don't believe this black boy would call his mother a bitch. Even if his father was dead and she was lacking in supervision or being a mother, I could see him saying, I wish dad was here instead of you. But that part felt it didn't even feel right. It didn't even feel right. And even with the scene with like the other movie on Netflix with Anthony Mackie, fast forward to like recently, Anthony Mackie came out and had a conversation with I forget that podcast, but with Brian Clark and them, and he was saying like how his sons are, you know, they have structure and order, and his oldest son says, yo, don't make dad mad. And I was like, Anthony Mackie would never tolerate this. So I don't know if he didn't push back or if he's just an actor. He just was like, let me just go with the script. This is just something I'm doing. I don't know, but I just like, I don't believe this child would say this to you. And I did not believe that that boy was going to say that to his mom. It just, I didn't believe it. So that was like the hiccup. The only other hiccup I had, okay, so let me talk about the ending. Spoiler. Don't watch this if you haven't seen it. The ending. In the ending, we see a very emotional scene where Ramona and the woman in the yard is being helped by the woman. Ramona is being helped by the woman in the yard to put a shotgun to her chin, and we get, before that, we see a scene where she's contemplating. She's like, I'm here to help you do this. You pray for me. You pray. She's like, no, I was praying to have strength. And she's like, you was praying to have strength to take your life. And she shows her, she's like, but what about my kids? And I thought it really did a good job of showing like, this is what's going through people's heads when they consider. They're thinking that it would be better off. You know, the woman in the yard was telling her, she showed her an image of the kids in the future and saying, they're going to be fine. You're going to do this. If you stay, you're going to hurt them. And I was like, damn, like that was a very honest depiction of maybe like what someone is going through when they're considering. And she was like, I don't want my children to be messed up. And then she puts, the woman in the yard helps her. And that was so emotional, y'all. Like, people were sniffling. I was like, this is a lot. And she sees the teddy bear that her daughter has. And all we see is her looking, and then the image of her with the, and I was like, this is a lot, y'all. And then it goes quiet. And then she just walks out of the shed. I think they was like in a shed. And I was like, what the hell just happened? And then her kids, she pushed her kids away. She was like, go to the neighbor's house. And they live on a farm. So, you know, you have to go acres to the next house. The kids come back. Everything is everybody's happy. She's like, is the lady coming back? The little girl's like, is the lady coming back? She's like, no, the lady hasn't come back. The lights of the house come on. They walk in the house. The house looks brand new. I said, something isn't right. Like, I was feeling happy, but I was like, something isn't right with this. This doesn't feel right. Because one, I'm not telling everything in the film, but one of the issues that we first saw was that the power was out, and it was because I don't believe she paid the bill. Ramona didn't pay the bill. And they did not have any power. And that was one of the reasons why they weren't able to call for help, because they did not have a phone. The electricity was out and the power was out. So how did the lights come back on? We see the camera pan into the house. The house looks new. The house did not look new, okay? We see pictures, her art. Earlier in the day, we saw that she was trying to finish art, but the house still looked kind of chaotic a little bit, in the sense of like, she wasn't finishing. She was a painter. She wasn't working on her art because she was dealing with her depression. We see a face of Ramona, refreshed, looking happy. And then we see her signature at the bottom, and it is written backwards. We also see that the name of the farm is on the sign. And the name is Iris Haven. And that is because that's her favorite flower, right? That name was never on the farm in the beginning when we saw it. Now, we can say, oh, was this like fast forwarded? Or like, are they showing like her life afterward, I don't think that that's what happened. And what I noticed with the signature was that when she was trying to find her daughter, when the lady in the yard stole her daughter, which that was another thing where I was like, did she take her daughter alive? I was a little confused, y'all, because it was like playing with like time a little bit and it was a little confusing. But she went through a mirage where she saw her husband and they were interacting with each other, and she wanted to stay there. And she started to look around the room and she started to notice that everything was backwards. The time was backwards. The clock was backwards. The pictures were reversed. The mirror, them in the mirror was reversed, meaning she was in a different world. And I was like, I think she. And I was like, oh my God. But the way they did it made it seem like it was a happy ending. And I'm sorry, but I really believe that that was the ending. I can say I appreciate that they did it that way, but I was like, oh my God. And I was thinking about it, the film afterwards. So I was like, this film did make me think. I think this is a film also that you have to watch more than once. So that is another thing. But overall, I will say, check out The Woman in the Yard if you can. It's not in theaters anymore. I am going to purchase it. But there was just like little things that I was just like, girl. And then the whole conversation, the thing with the woman in the woman in the yard disclosed something to the son, which made me think this was her shadow self trying to expose things. Like she needed to come up because she was being so suppressed. And she exposed the truth. So I don't know. I'm just conflicted. I need to watch it again. But overall, I will say check out The Woman in the Yard. But now I do want to talk about Sinners. Okay, so Sinners. Let's talk about Sinners. Now everybody has think pieces. I'm going to include Queen Poe's review of the film because I really loved her, and there's so many people, and I agree with a lot of the things, but I just want to talk about what really stood out to me. There were so many several scenes of like that I really appreciated in this film. But the scene that I really want to talk about is the wooden nickel scene. And the wooden nickel scene. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because that scene really, the wooden nickel scene, and then the scene where Smoke taught the little girl how to barter and how to negotiate when it comes to money. And these two kind of correlate with each other because this is the thing. If you don't know what a wooden nickel is, the wooden nickels was back in the day. This was set in the 30s. Wooden nickels would be equivalent to like tangible store credit. So instead of like, you know, like instead of giving you cash back or whatever, or paying you, they would pay you in wooden nickels so that you can use that store credit only at that store. So if you're working, right, and you're not fully being paid properly, but you're also being paid in wooden nickels, how are you supposed? I was just like, the wooden nickel situation, just like, and I'm trying to see how I can really really expand on how I felt about that scene. When they were at the juke joint, which, let me explain this. The fact that Smoke and Stacks, they hit a lick with a crooked stick. They hit a lick and they robbed the Irish folks and the Italian mob and the Irish mob. And they got their beer, they got money, but that can only last you but so long, right? You go back to your people who are not really making that much money either, and you're trying to start a business from the ground up. You purchase this property from a man who clearly you can see doesn't respect you. But that don't mean nothing. No, never mind, because you going to get your respect. Only to start this business and then realize you only are going to have 2 months before y'all go broke. When Smoke was like, I did the tally, he gave the tally to Stacks. Stacks' face lit up. He said, the top is plantation money. The bottom is real money. His face lit up when he saw the top, and then his face dimmed. It went cold when he saw the bottom. And this is the thing where I have to say, like, oh my God. The reality of, like, or there's like the stereotype that Black people don't know how to, they don't know how to be resourceful with money. They spend their money frivolously. Like, I'm really understanding, like, a lot of things have been really rigged and conditioned to, like, stereotype people to the point where it's just like, this is a blatant lie. Now, listen, are some people frivolous with their money? Yes. But Black people are some of the most resourceful people on this planet. We know how to make $1 out of 15 cents. We know how to do this. And what I saw with that these people work really hard. They're not being properly paid, but they also are being paid in wooden nickels, right? And then you expect them to, like, thrive. Well, you don't expect them to thrive. But I'm talking about even in our society today. Like, we see how, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but it really speaks to, like, the goalpost is always moved. And even when you work to do things to, like, or even hit a lick like other people do, to try to get a better situation, you're still going to be hit with some BS. That wooden nickel scene, it just, like, really set the tone for me of, like, how Black people are not properly paid, even with, like, the whole situation with Taraji. Even in this film, how Ryan Coogler did an amazing job with the film, but the backlash on his deal just really, like, it's like, this is the way of the industry socially throwing out those wooden nickels, or trying to, like, socially give you wooden nickels and put you in your place. I was just like, this is so interesting. Even and let me take it a step farther. I don't think that it was a coincidence that Cabo Carter last year came out. We know how it was so much backlash with her, a Black woman from the South, making a country album, and we knowing the history of country music. Fast forward to the impact of Not Like Us and the Super Bowl performance and the backlash with that. Then now with Sinners and the success, but also moving the goalposts of trying to have backlash with Ryan Coogler's deal, and trying to dim the light of saying, oh, they only did 40 million or 60 million on the first opening weekend. The goalpost is always moved in a sense of, like, it really isn't set up for you to thrive. And when I saw, and then another thing of like, when I saw the scene where Smoke was teaching the little girl how to barter and taught her how to negotiate. And then when he went into the store and Grace immediately knew how to barter. She immediately said, that's gonna cost you. I could do this, I could do that. No, he like, I can only do this. And she's like, okay. Like, she immediately knew that. That little girl didn't know that. And even with that, we are still making moves. And that wooden nickel, I don't know, like, I know, like, it's just a scene where it was like they couldn't really make a lot of money, but it really set the tone for me, showing me like the iniquity, which was something that came to me spiritually with another conversation that I had with God about something personally in my life. And I was like, wow, this is like that. And then also, I was like, I don't think that's a coincidence with the situation with Shador. That is not a, he's getting his wooden nickel moment, his nigga moment. Shador got his wooden nickel moment. That's what I mean when the wooden nickel. And then talking back about sinners, the interesting thing was, in all reality, yes, all of those people that night died from the vampires, but when you really think about it, y'all, that morning the Klan was coming. Most of those people, not all of them, but a good, like, Perlene said she walked, right? Do you think she was going to walk back home in the middle of the night? They were turned up. If that situation with Mary coming in as the transitioning, they would have been there till the sunrise, which meant that the Klan would have came, and they most likely would have, some of them would have died. But then we saw what happened at the end, which was so beautiful. But yeah, like the wooden nickel scene just really, it meant something more to me of like how our society is, how it treats Black people economically. And even when you try, and I get it, like Stacks and Smoke, they did hit a lick with a crooked stick. But let's say they earned that money fair and square and bought that property from there, from that sheriff guy or whatever he was. They still would have got their wooden nickel moment of the sheriff coming back. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying with the wooden nickel of that man would have tried to rob them. They paid for that building and they would have robbed them and murdered them. These are the little wooden nickel moments that is unfair, but even through it, like, man, you got that grill in you. You got that grill in you. So yeah, like, even the message with the griot, I just love. And they're like, there's so many other symbolisms and stuff like that. But yeah, so I'm gonna insert. Also, I want to talk about really quickly. It's not a coincidence that the Met Gala had the theme of the Black Dandy. I don't think it's a coincidence, y'all. I don't think it's a coincidence that Cowboy Carter came out. The impact of Not Like Us in the Super Bowl. Sinners, the impact of that, and explaining how blues music inspires a bunch of different genres. Also, the backlash with Ryan Coogler, the wooden nickels, and then also the Met Gala Black Dandy. I'm going to insert a video. Ali, Richmond, and June Ambrose and Dapper Dan did an interview with Complex back in March. It's such a good interview. I'm gonna include it just in case if anybody want to watch it. Yo, a lot of people looked really nice. I think that it was last night, if I'm not mistaken, or yesterday. Um, they look really nice. Tiana Teller looked so bomb. I love Ruth Carter. Ruth Carter designed her look. Ruth Carter was also the costume designer on Sinners, among a lot of other things. And yeah, I got my, also when I went to the movies, I got my little popcorn tin, so I got some merch, which was cool. But yeah, Sinners 10 10 10s across the board. Also, a wooden nickel moment. We just found out that the Academy Award, the voters, they were not watching all of the films. They were not watching, and some of them wouldn't even watch the film. They would vote off of popularity. If that ain't a wooden nickel moment for your ass. So now we understand why certain people, you see what I'm saying? Like, it just really spoke to that wooden nickel moment really spoke to me for some reason. And it spoke to me personally in my own situation, because I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I've been like contemplating with certain things, like it's not making any sense. And it's like, this is the wooden moment. Wooden nickel moment. This is what that is. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna figure out a way how to get past it. But I'm definitely purchasing Sinners on DVD, and I'm gonna buy the digital version when it comes out, because Ryan is gonna get back in 25 years. He's gonna get back all of that money. He need to get all of that back, which even that backlash is so interesting. But okay, really quickly, I want to talk about some books. Okay, these are some books that I have now. If you want me to do a review, I haven't read these yet, but these are some books that I plan on reading. You can see here. Let's start really quickly. Okay, I've already started reading this. I am almost finished. And this is Long Division by Kiese Laymon. And it is so funny. It's basically about a young boy who is visiting his grandmother. I think he's from up north. His name is City. Yeah, he's from the city, and he comes down south to visit his grandmother. And one of his friends goes missing, and he finds like a time warp. He basically goes to the future. No. It's set in the 90s. He goes to the future, and he learns about a black president. Like, it's so funny. He's like, what? We got a black president? It's so funny. And he sees a laptop for the first time. Like, it's so funny. Like, it is hilarious. And it's such a good story. It's like a mystery, time travel type of situation. And I really enjoyed it. The timing, child, the timing. But yeah, so far what I read, I highly recommend checking this book out, Long Division. The next thing up is The Dutchman and the Slave. This is by LeRoi Jones, who is also known as Amiri Baraka. I think that was his new name. I'll insert it. Yeah, I think it's Amiri Baraka. Or if I'm saying it wrong. But this is his government name, LeRoi Jones, and he changed his name. So yeah, The Dutchman and the Slave, as you know, like, and it's so crazy, like, watching Sinners, and even I went to go see Furlough. Oh my God, I don't have it here. But I went to go see Furlough. I don't have the playbill here. But I went to go see Furlough's Paradise, which I highly recommend y'all checking that out. It really inspired me to like dig deep. And also, F the wooden nickels, like, have like, I had a situation where like I had went up for something and it didn't come through, and I'm just like, this story is really good, but the reality is like you just still gotta push through. So reading this to get, you know, read as many plays, um screenplays as well, because I'm just keep continuing to write. And then, you know what's so crazy, right before I found out that I didn't get the situation that I went up for, I freaking, 3 of my scripts made it to the top 30% and 40. So one made it to the top 30% and 2 made it to the top 40% on Coverfly. And I thought that was so interesting that that happened, and then I found out this news. So it's just like the universe speaking to me. And even with like all of the things that we're learning and how like the backlash and the goalpost is just constantly moved, it's just like, this is how stuff is going to be now. I just have to like move forward and figure out how to like produce myself and do other things, and you know, like be resourceful. That's what it is. Furlough's Paradise, it follows Sade and Mina, and they are basically coming back home from the funeral of their aunt and cousin. So Sade is the daughter of the woman that passed away, and Mina is the niece of the daughter. They're cousins, they grew up together, and you can see how they spend the next 3 days grieving, conversing, dreaming with each other, as they deal with. Sade is on a furlough where, you know, she's in prison and she comes home for her mother's funeral. They allow her to come home for her mother's funeral for the weekend. And Mina is also, she's back home, and they're renting a place back home in their old neighborhood. But Mina has moved out to the West Coast, and she talks about her life there. And then Sade talks about how her and the other inmates dream about how they're going to create a paradise when they get out. And we learn just so many things about these two women, the women that their partners, the how they feel like their lives were so different, but they grew up literally in the same neighborhood by two people that were related to each other. And it was just, and oh my goodness. And I went during the blackout night, and I was still surprised to see that everybody wasn't black, which I thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting. Back to this. Back to this. I thought that was interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, if you can, go check out Furlough's Paradise. 90-minute play. It's at the Geffen Playhouse. I don't know if they're going to travel other places, but right in the UCLA area in Westwood. Such a good play. Like, I highly, highly, highly recommend checking out Furlough's Paradise. This is another one. I forget if it was, I think before Nikki Giovanni died, she talked about this author, Edwidge Danticat. I think that's how you say her name. But the name of this book is called Krak. She is a Haitian author. And I want to read this. It has like mythicism and like folklore in it. And yeah, I really want to check this out. So that's why I got this. I also got these off of thrift books. They were very cheap. This book and this book. The next book I also got off of thrift books. This is, it didn't come with the cover, but it's Nickel Boys. I don't know if you can see that. Nickel Boys by Colson, Whitehead. I watched the film Nickel Boys. I got invited to SAG-AFTRA, and we saw a private screening, and we had a Q&A with Franklin Leonard, who is the creator and owner of The Blacklist, which is a screenwriting, theater, and now they also do publishing, like editorial publishing competitions. He's the creator of that, with Ramel Ross, who was the writer and director. And quickly talk about Nickel Boys. Nickel Boys was not an easy watch, but it was so creatively done. I know a lot of people, I saw some backlash from some black people about it. Me, as someone who is, I'm claiming it, like I have not produced anything yet, or yeah, I haven't produced anything yet, but I've written things. And you know, money is always a factor, because you need money to make these things, wooden nickels. And once I do get the money to do stuff, I will be doing it. But it's just like, I thought it was really creatively done. It was very heartwarming, but also it showed the tragedy of that real story that really happened. These boys were assaulted, these boys were abused, and some of them were even, you know, their lives were taken. So I don't know how else did you want to, and he did it without showing violence on the screen. I appreciated the film. I thought it was necessary, and it needed to be told. So that's how I feel about the film. I do highly recommend checking it out if you can. But yeah, Nickel Boys was an excellent creative moment that I thought he did in a very good way. So that's Nickel Boys. And then the last thing up that I will be checking out is Matriarch by Tina Knowles. And already, I haven't read it yet, but I've listened to some of her interviews, and it made me want to read the book. Especially her interview with the Reed. It was so good. Such a good interview. And when I saw this is the first page, which is her family tree. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a good book. Yeah, just including all her family in here, ex-husbands, husbands, extended family, like beautiful, 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 beautiful. So I cannot wait to delve into this book. And then Messina, she looks so pretty right there. But yeah, those are the things that I plan on reading. Also, Scenes of Subjection. I don't know if you can see this. Saidiya Hartman. I was reading this book for something specific. And I'm still going to read it because the thing didn't fall through. But it could fall through. Something else could happen. So we'll see. But I was reading this book. Girl, this book. And I have the audio book because sometimes, like, when I'm working, this book is very dense and you have to like really sit down and read it. And it, like, a scholar wrote this book, okay? It's very dense, okay? This book is a lot. And ooh, child, I'm gonna insert another clip really quickly about when I first started reading
Scenes of Subjection by Saidiya Hartman. Now, this was, y'all know, like, I went to the library and I had made the decision, like, I'm going to have to purchase this book. I'm going to have to purchase this book because I need to write in here. And as you can see, like, I have these transparent or translucent sticky notes, which I highly recommend getting these. I got mine from Amazon. I will link it below. Like, I got a couple of different ones, and these are the best pens. You cannot use regular pens on this. It will smudge. But this pen here, this brand, this is the best pen. They do not smudge. When I do this, when I try to write with any other pen, it either doesn't show up, or if it's like a Sharpie marker, it will smudge. So this is the best pen for that. So I highly recommend using this. Anyway, so but let me just tell you a little bit about what I've read so far. So Saidiya Hartman this chapter is called Formations of Terror and Enjoyment. So in this beginning, like, I'm literally like on page 18. I did kind of skip. Well, I'm on like the first check. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm not on page 18. I'm on page 20. I kind of glimpsed through the introduction, but I just wanted to start off reading Innocent Amusements. Now, just to show you, excuse me, in the beginning of this, you can see here, Saidiya Hartman is talking about John Rankin, who was, I believe he was an educator, and then I forget what else he was, but he was a white man who, he's also, I think he's a writer, educator, whatever. So he decided that in order for him to kind of like identify with enslaved people, he had to mentally place himself and envision himself as an enslaved person, right? That's anything, like, you know, you just having empathy with someone, like, let's say, give an example. You see someone that's homeless, instead of judging them, you put yourself like, damn, like, I have to think about this. Like, what if this was me? You know, I don't know what they're going through, but I can only imagine, like, if this was me or my kids on the street, like, I empathize with that, and I hope that, you know, I hope that things can change in their favor. I'm not going to judge that situation. Maybe I'll even, like, try to offer some type of help. So in order for him to basically, like, understand that slavery was wrong, for him, he had to mentally imagine himself being whipped, sexually assaulted, his children being whipped, raped, and just, like, you know, ridiculed. And he talked about how when he started to envision himself, he started to have empathy with Black people. He was like, wow, this is messed up. But then he said, as he started to imagine his wife and his child being whipped, he had an affliction of, like, amusement or, like, arousal. And I was like, what the hell? And it just makes me think about Power Trip. Like, he's a white man who probably, of course, had power in let's say this was 16 to 1800s, right? He died, I believe, in 1866, if I'm not mistaken. And just, like, really thinking about the reason why people do the things that they do, especially when it comes to bullying, it's a sense of an ego trip or a power trip over someone else. And it just really, like, I was just like, what the hell? Like, I've never really, like, read anything from John Rankin, but it just, like, also added another layer to what I'm trying to talk about.
First, I took this book out of the library, and then I was like, no, I have to purchase this book. So I had to purchase it so that I can, like, annotate in it and really delve into it. And the scene I'll insert here, I was blown away, and it explains a lot. This book explains a lot about Black Americans, the dynamic with Black Americans in America and with white people in America, and systematically the things that are done. Not just wooden nickels, but the wooden nickels are in here. But the ownership or the it's just very, it's fucking weird. It's weird. But when I was reading this book and certain stories, I'm like, oh, this is why people feel that they can do this. This is why, oh, this is why, oh, this is why we always have. I'm not someone who has a problem with enslaved depiction, but it really explains why we always see movies about slaves. Also, let me say this too, because Omar Miller Benson, he said that somebody saw the movie and they were like, I hated that it was a black person that texted him this. I hated seeing you picking cotton. But the film was good though. I am not ashamed that my ancestors once upon a time picked cotton, dyed indigo. Like, I'm not ashamed of that. And you really need to ask yourself a question of why you may feel ashamed of that your ancestors picked cotton at one point in time. Or have you been conditioned to try to feel ashamed that your ancestors were taken advantage of? You really have to ask yourself. You might want to read this book. It's just like, it's just the mind, okay? But Scenes of Subjection, girl, Saidiya Hartman, you did one. I recommend getting the book, but if you could get the audiobook, child, I'll be listening to that audiobook like, god damn, it's crazy. But yeah, child. And seeing like, keep writing your stories. Listen, y'all, don't fall for the wooden nickels. The wooden nickels are there to, okay, let me say this. Back to Sinners really quickly. Annie didn't mind using the plantation money because we saw when Smoke was like, here, this real money, take this. And she was like, no. When the little girls paid her the plantation money to get that little hoodoo herbs, and she said, I don't want this money. She wasn't going anywhere, and she was content where she was, and that's okay because she knew what she wanted. But I have a problem when people are trying to thrive. They're trying hard, they're working hard, and the system is working against them. That is the problem that I have with wooden nickels. Don't pay me in no damn wooden nickels. That's annoying. But yeah, that wooden nickel moment, just like, I don't know why that, like, it spoke to me. And it's because, like, seeing all of everything that's happening, and it's just another confirmation. And then seeing how Ryan is being treated with this deal, it was like, dog, I don't even know if you know what you just did, but you put it in. And he also talked about how, he saw how we would be very influenced on a culture and not really be getting the resources that we need from it. Like, we're being taken advantage of. And literally, look what, it's crazy. Like, I'm like, dog, I don't even, you intentionally did it. But he said he will talk to his uncles and his grandfather. His uncles. Yeah, his uncles, and I think also his grandfather, the men in his family that passed on, and say like, what would you think about if he said this, or what you think about this? And I think that's why it's so powerful, because it came from a genuine place. That's how I feel about it. But let me know if y'all saw Sinners. If y'all will go see, if you're in LA, if you're going to see Furlough's Paradise. If you saw The Woman in the Yard. Was it The Lady? I always wanted to say The Lady in the Yard, but it's not. It's The Woman in the Yard. If y'all saw The Woman in the Yard, how did you feel about it? What are your takeaways? If y'all have recommendation of good reviews that you want to see, let me know. If you liked anything from the Black Dandy Met Gala experience. Also, I'm going to link the clip of the choir singing to Anna Wintour and Coleman Domingo. Okay, and who else? I forget. It was somebody else standing next to them. I can't remember who that was. Was that the fair guy? What you call it? I forget. I don't know. I feel like it was him, but it might not have been him because he probably designed his clothes. I don't know. But anyway, that concludes this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That really helps me. It really helps me. I feel like I really want to keep filming, but it gets hard with like like just life be lifing. But if I see that people tune in, I will try to commit more. That'll be like an inspiration. So yeah, let me know. Let me know. Thank you again for tuning in. I will catch you on the next one. Peace.